Good morning and welcome back to the farm. Today is February 23 and it's greenhouse tomato transplanting day. So before we can start planting greenhouse tomatoes, we need to get everything fired up in here. So I just filled the water heater up. I actually had a cracked pipe down there I had to fix. Right over there. Got that fixed. Water heater's full, water is hot. All right, here is the Grower's Choice computer system that runs everything in the greenhouse. Now this is our fan jet. This is what transfers the heat from the heater and distributes it throughout the greenhouse. Put it on. Now it's filling up there. The hot air comes out of these 3-inch holes that are punched in the fan jet tube. It's called a convection tube. And it kind of blows the air down on the plants. These are the 3 bellow pumps that pump fertilizer and acid out of these 3 tanks. So several times a year we have to completely take them apart and clean them all out because there's sediment and gunk inside the lines. Everything has been thoroughly cleaned and ready to be put back together. All put back together and ready to fire it up, see if everything works. Got the flow meter all cleaned up. Let's turn it on and see what we got here. Beautiful. Got it set on about 4 gallons per minute. And we have water. Let's fire up the bellow pumps. And looks like they're all working. This allows us to mix 3 different kinds of fertilizer concentrations in these 3 tanks. If they were mixed all together in one tank, they would form a precipitate. So they're kept separate and come together in the blue mixing tank before fed to the tomatoes. Let's turn the pump on and flush all the junk out of these 5 risers. And then we'll flush each line and then pressurize the whole system. You can see how putrid this water is coming out of the lines. But it clears up pretty quick. Pretty nasty. It's clearing up real nice. So after flushing all the main water lines, we pressurize the system and then we check each individual dripper, hose, and stake to make sure water is flowing and that nothing is plugged up and we're ready for putting plants in the buckets. So each row has about 123 drippers on it for 123 plants. And there was probably a dozen bad ones in each row. So my son and I replaced all those drippers. And then over here to our boiler for our ground heat for keeping the roots of the tomatoes at 70 degrees. I had a leaky pressure tank, so I put a new pressure tank on here. And for some reason I forgot to open this valve up last fall. I usually take this entire piece off and it had froze. It was a cracked mess, so I replaced that piece. I got the boiler pump all tightened back up because we drain water there too. System's all full of water and ready for radiant floor heat. We have fire. All right. We have heat. Always glad to see the heaters working. Nice and warm. Yep, they both fired up just fine. Now in the previous video, I filled all these Beto buckets with perlite. They were already pretty much full. I just topped them off with fresh perlite. We are ready to bring the plants in from the transplant house. We use these little blue wagons and we bring 4 trays at a time down to the main greenhouse where they're going to be planted. There's only 70 trays, so it only takes about 20-30 minutes. We get them all distributed and laid out throughout the greenhouse, and now they are ready to place in the buckets. So now that we got all the plugged drippers replaced, everything is flowing free and clear, and everything is pressurized and cleaned up. We're ready for planting. As you can see, the tomatoes are all out here in the greenhouse ready for planting. So here in a few minutes, my son's going to come out and we're going to start placing individual plants into each bucket. Each bucket, the Dutch Beto buckets, gets 2 plants. And then after we get them all laid out, we'll put the drippers in each plant. And then I will fire up the irrigation system, and it's all run by this computer here, the Grower's Choice computer. It's all on a timer, and they'll get fed a specific recipe. Oh, probably every 45 minutes, maybe once every hour. When they're young like this, they don't take a whole lot. Now, once the plants start growing and the days get longer and there's more sunshine, they'll require a lot more feed. The cycle time will run a lot longer every time it fires up, and it'll probably happen about every half hour. It just depends on the weather. All right, it's time to get these things planted. All right, the way we plant these, we just take a plant from the tray, set it right down into the Beto bucket, give it a little wiggle so there's good perlite to cube contact, and we give the stake a little shove down in there, kind of anchor it in. Then we take our dripper, it's being irrigated right now, stick it into the cube just like that. That plant is good to go. All right, my son and I have completely finished planting this greenhouse. There are 615 plants in here. Feels good to have this one done. Now we can just sit back and watch them grow, right? Wrong. There are lots and lots of tasks that come with raising greenhouse tomatoes. So stay tuned for the next video. We're gonna get into attaching the strings to the plants, pruning suckers. We gotta make sure there's no insects or diseases, make sure there's plenty of heat in here, making sure all the plants get the water and nutrients that they need. So all that's going to be coming in future videos. We have another greenhouse that we're getting ready to put plastic on and prepare for planting the next crop of tomatoes. So stay tuned for all of that. That's going to wrap up today's video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate it. We'll see you again real soon down on the farm.